Our coverage of the top story of the day continues. We're talking about the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. A massive section of the bridge came down after a cargo ship hit it. And that cargo ship had made a stop at the Norfolk International Terminal before it made its way to Baltimore. And that's where we find 10 on your side's Andy Fox, who has the latest into today's investigation into this disaster. Andy?
Yeah, Tom, the container ship began its route to Baltimore from right here at the Virginia International Gateway Port. It went up there without any type of incident, and then of course something this morning went terribly wrong. We learned the crew sent out a Mayday distress signal warning authorities of a power outage on the ship, and they had no power, which apparently also may have knocked out steerage. At that time, traffic is halted, stopped at the entrance to the bridge, stopping other cars from going across.
I think, well, the investigation is still going on to find out exactly how many people and what was the situation. But the thing that we do know is that many of the vehicles were stopped before they got onto the bridge, which saved lives in a very, very heroic way.
The ship, coming in at 8 knots, was at the mercy of the currents. In the video, the ship lights go out twice. The last car gets across, and then the ship crashes into a support column, collapsing the bridge. A construction crew on bridge fixing potholes. It is possible the cars that went into the water belonged to the crew. 8 people went in the water, 6 are missing, 1 sent to hospital, the other refused treatment.
And so to hear the words that the Key Bridge has collapsed, it's shocking and heartbreaking. And immediately the first thought and the first ideas go back to what happened to the people, what was the impact on human life.
President Joe Biden promised not only full support, but promised that the federal government will rebuild the bridge.
It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge, and I expect the Congress to support my effort.
Not just rebuild, but that we are going to rebuild in a way that remembers the people who this tragedy has impacted.
Yeah, coming up tonight on Wavy News 10 at 6, we hear from the NTSB. They are in charge of the investigation. But now my colleague Chris Horn is standing by live at Willoughby Spit. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. We are out here. You can see one of the ships that come our way first and then go to the Chesapeake Bay. Earlier, we just saw a tanker go in the opposite direction. And as you mentioned, the Dolly, that Indonesian ship, came here first last week before it went up to the bay. Right now, though, Maryland is a neighbor in need, and Virginia's governor is promising all possible resources to help after the Bay Bridge disaster.
And I told him that anything he needed, anything, we would make available.
Governor Glenn Youngkin offering full support to fellow Maryland Governor Wes Moore in the wake of the Key Bridge disaster. Youngkin says that support will come from several state agencies.
Our first step is to make sure that we have made available all of the emergency management services that they could use. That includes, of course, our public safety, all of our emergency management folks, but on top of that, support from VDOT for MDOT, and then finally the support from the port.
Cargo vessels are already making the detour away from Baltimore and into Hampton Roads.
We have our first ocean carrier that was supposed to be heading to Baltimore, making a stop in Virginia and unloading all of their Baltimore cargo here. We've got capacity to do it, and I think that's really important.
Meanwhile, the Coast Guard is coordinating with Baltimore authorities in securing the site and searching for survivors. Response boat crews from Coast Guard stations Curtis Bay, that's near the bridge, and Annapolis have crews deployed to the incident for active search and rescue.
On scene, we currently have 3 small boats. We also have Coast Guard cutter Mako, an 87-foot patrol boat. We have a helicopter from Air Station Atlantic City.
And just a quick correction in my intro, I think I said Bay Bridge. I meant Francis Scott Key Bridge. Bay Bridge is a different route across the Chesapeake Bay up near Baltimore. Just to put things in context, something we can all relate to, Port of Baltimore handled more than 850,000 tons of new cars and light trucks. It's the largest port in the U.S. for that sort of shipping. So it is going to have effect on our economy and on our supply chain. We're live in Norfolk. Chris Horn, 10 on your side.
Chris, thank you. Of course, our coverage of the bridge collapse and its impacts continues in our next half hour. You can also get updates at any time on wavy.com or through the Wavy News app.